because why not? Here.
Hi. So you'll notice that the name is wrong now because I decided to change my name to better reflect both my channel and help the YouTube algorithm a little bit more with my content and my sharing. So it is now Lulu and her books. We will be using that moniker going forward. However, this video was filmed before I made the executive decision. So thank you for your understanding. Bye.
And today we're doing a very different video today. So this is gonna be the first time I've ever done a book tag. I don't know what I'm doing. However, we are doing the mid-year book freakout tag. It is currently 2023. It is June of 2023. So obviously it is mid-year. So we're gonna be doing this. I have all of the books that I'm planning on talking about like right next to me. So we're gonna go through all of these questions and see what I have to say because I really don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so the first question is the best book you've read so far. So I actually have multiple answers for this question. I have multiple answers for this question. Now that I'm like actively thinking about it. First off, we're gonna talk about The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I didn't know anything about this book going into it, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. I had no expectations. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't really seen anybody really like talking about it. However, I have seen people who absolutely love this book, like making videos on Bookstagram and all of that, all of that. So, but I hadn't seen anybody really talking about it or like what the book was about or anything like that, and I kind of refused to look it up because I just didn't want to. I wanted to go into this book completely blind, and I'm so happy that I did because this book was so freaking good. Like, there was no other way to describe this book other than heart-wrenching. It's so lyrical and whimsical in the way that it's written. However, it tackles some very human feelings and emotions and like thoughts that you would never really think about unless it's on paper, and now you have to think about it. Feelings of loneliness, feelings of inadequacy, feelings of feeling like you're not having enough time to do anything that you want. That is the thing. It's just an entire this book is like an entire journey. It's an experience. Not just a book, it's an experience. And I think this is definitely on the way to becoming one of the best books that I've ever read. I've marinated on this book for a couple of weeks, and I think this is now about to be one of my favorite books of all time. The next book that would be one of the best books that I've ever read this year, Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. There's nothing else that really needs to be said. Honestly, nothing. Other than the fact that this book was amazing. And I would recommend it to literally everybody, but you need to read Six of Crows first. Because if you don't, then you will have no idea what's going on in this book. However, this book was pretty much everything I ever wanted from a sequel, to be honest. There's nothing else to really be said other than this was so much fun. There was so much to be read. There's so much fun to be had in reading this book because it kind of just never stops. And it's made even better by the fact that Kaz, the entire time, is sleep deprived. And I'm not even joking. He barely sleeps throughout this entire series, and he just doesn't want to because he's a demon, I suppose. It's so funny. However, this book was so much fun for me. And honestly, I'm so excited to go back to the series, like maybe in a year or so, and go back and annotate it because Jesus Christ, love this book. The next one is kind of a little bit of a surprise for me. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. See, I picked up this book on a whim. I wanted to pick up this book because I had heard really good things about it. However, reading it so soon after I got it was kind of an impulse decision. I had no idea what this book was going to be like once I went into it. However, what happened was not what I was expecting. And to be entirely honest, I'm really glad it wasn't what I was expecting. Because this book was so much better than I really ever like could have imagined it being. Sorry, there's a dog hair on the top of it. And to be entirely honest, in reading this book, there's kind of a feeling of like you don't know what's really going on because you're in as much dark as the characters are. Like up until the characters, like you find out things a little bit before the main characters do. And the way this book is written is so like mystical and like so secretive that it really does feel like you're being let in on its own, on a little secret. And I really loved that aspect of this book. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. This wasn't like a typical read for me. It wasn't action-packed. It wasn't fast-paced. It was just kind of two people kind of fighting, not really, with each other to prove a point to one another and prove a point to their mentors until it devolves into something that neither them nor their mentors could have expected happening. And then they just kind of have to deal with it. It's honestly amazing. And I'm excited. I'm really excited to reread this because I'm very excited. Because this book, just like, I feel like upon a reread, I would have appreciated more. Because again, this was an impulse pickup. And honestly, I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. And to be honest, I'm really excited to go back to it because there's kind of no way to really experience this kind of like whimsicalness other than going back to it. The next question, I know this by heart, is the best sequel you've read so far. And we already know what I'm going to say. Crooked Kingdom. I already talked about it. This book was so much fun. This book was pretty much everything I ever wanted from a sequel. To be honest, there's nothing else to really be said about this book other than it was great. Seriously. I just, like, the fact of how Kaz and his entire crew just went in on it, they never really even thought about, like, breaking apart. Except for Matthias. Matthias is the only one with, like, any shred of conscience left, because this man was literally like, why the fuck am I here? And so Wylan himself was also like, what am I doing here? What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? But he never really ever thinks about leaving. Exactly. Matthias is the only one who ever really thinks about leaving, but he doesn't because of Nina. And we already know how I feel about Nina. However, Matthias, he has a conscience. And it's absolutely hilarious just watching him interact with everybody. He's like, you all need help. I love Matthias so much and I'm so sad. I was so sad. I was so sad at what happened to him. Anyways, this was the best sequel that I've read so far. This book actually actively made me cry. If you know why I cried, then you know. If you don't, then I'm not going to spoil it for you. Read the books. So the next question is new release you haven't read yet but want to. And for this one, I'm going to go with Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. See, I got this book. This is an interesting case for me because I saw it literally as I was walking out from a Barnes & Noble. Like literally, I was about to go home. No, I wasn't about to go home. I was about to go to work, right? And when I was walking out of Barnes & Noble, I saw this book. More specifically, I saw the etches. And I just had to have it. At that point, I read the description. I was like, okay, you're coming home with me. Gimme. And I told the Barnes & Noble to take my monies, and they gladly did. However, I also didn't know that this book was $30. And once I picked it up, I just kind of didn't care. Anyways, this book quite literally, like after I picked it up, it just sat on my shelf for a while, and then it started exploding in hype and popularity all over Bookstagram, Book Talk, and I was like, where did any of that come from? So now I want to read it. Like, I wanted to read it before, but now I'm really curious as to where this hype is coming from. Because quite literally, I picked this up before the hype really exploded around this book. And I looked up the author, and she has a couple of romance books out. Specifically, The Things We Leave Unfinished, which is on Kindle Unlimited, which is something I do plan to read at some point. I'll probably read it on Kindle Unlimited. However, this book, I have no clue what I'm going to get myself into. I read the first page, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of here for that. So we're going to see where this goes whenever I decide to pick it up. However, but what I do know is that every time I open this book, a very specific smell pops out of it, and I'm not entirely mad about it. The fourth question is most anticipated release for the second half of 2023. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. So there aren't technically any books that I'm really anticipating. I'm not really in the business of like looking up books technically. Like, I will do it. If it's a book that I've been hearing about, I'll like do some research into if I want to pick it up or not. Or if it's like an author that's releasing a new book that I'm familiar, if it's a familiar author that's releasing a new book, then I will look into it. However, there is a book by an author that I want to pick up that I've never really gone into before, and that is there's a new Brandon Sanderson book that's coming out later this month, and I completely forget what it's called. However, the title was really interesting. It is The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. I'm not entirely certain what this book is about, because I completely forget. I even completely forgot the title for a minute. However, this book does sound very interesting. However, when I looked at the email where I got a notification that this book was coming out, I think it's coming out the 27th. I was like, oh, I've been meaning to pick up a Brandon Sanderson book for a while. Maybe we'll just get that. And so I was like, yeah. So that apparently is going to be my most anticipated read. Because I don't know what else to really say about it. So there's that. Next question is the biggest disappointment this year. If you don't already know what I'm about to say, have you even really been on my channel? If you just haven't been reading on my channel, have you ever? Have you? If you don't know, you probably know this already if you've been following me for a while. Cursed by Marissa Meyer. I DNF this book. This book just felt like it didn't need to happen. We all know why. This was my biggest disappointment. I just didn't know why. I guess another one of my disappointments could possibly be And I Darken, but the thing is about that book, it honestly, that book was also pretty disappointing. So I think we're going to count both of these books for this question, because literally, what? Like, where, why, how, like, this book felt like it didn't need to happen, and the other just felt lazy as all hell. Like, I'm not even joking. Both of these books were just sore disappointments to me, and I think I kept Cursed mainly because I think that if I go back and reread the series, reread the two books, Gilded and then Cursed, if I reread those, I think if I reread both of them, I would maybe be able to appreciate them more. But until then, this one remains one of my biggest disappointments, and then And I Darken for some very obvious reasons. Ugh. So next question is our biggest surprise. Okay, so I think what's probably going to be the thing is that Wicked King And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this about The Wicked King. This was also one of the best sequels that I've read. Not as good as Crooked Kingdom, because obviously. However, The Wicked King as a whole, I was not expecting to like it so much compared to the rest of the series, because the rest of the series is pretty average, kind of. At least that's what the rest the series itself, like the first 3 books, completely average. That's all I'm going to say. However, this one steps it up slightly in a way that doesn't really make sense to me, considering how everything else just kind of flows within the books. However, I was very surprised in the direction that this book took. I was very surprised at the politics and all of that, and like how this book was tackled. And it was a good surprise. I loved this book, but I didn't love it, if you understand me. That's all I really need to say about this book. It did surprise me how much I like this book compared to the rest of the series. Next question is new favorite author. Okay. So it has to be either Erin Morgenstern or Leigh Bardugo. One of the two. I don't know which one. Maybe even V.E. Schwab. But the thing is, here's the thing about V.E. Schwab. I've only ever read one of her books. I own one more and like 2 Victoria Schwab books. So I'm going to read those before I pass my moral judgment. However, Leigh Bardugo or Erin Morgenstern, it has to be one of those two, because both of them and their writing just superb. Best fantasy, best magical realism. Great. I want to pick up everything they've ever read. However, I've heard some very bad things about about Shadow and Bone and the rest of the books in that series. I've heard some pretty bad things. So I'm kind of scared. However, they do have all of the books on Kindle Unlimited, so we will see. Next question is newest fictional crush. I have several answers for this question. This is a problem. This is a problem. A very large problem. So we're going to talk about it in the order of... We're not going to talk about this in any particular order. I'm just going to fangirl over each of them individually, and then you'll see what I mean. First off, Kaz fucking Brecker. Kaz Brecker. He is the no-sleep king. Cunning, conniving, brutal king that every dark fantasy girly really ever wants as their main love interest. But the thing is, he can't even be a love interest because he doesn't even like physical contact. However, he is also one of those people that would literally go, I would kill for you, and you just kind of have to accept that because he's not going to do anything else for you. Like, he's nice. He has it in him to be nice. However, he's not going to change himself to be the nicest person on this planet. He just is what he is, and I do adore him for that. I adore him for sticking to it, for owning his truth. And also just his whole thing with the cane and the blood and the brutal. He's just everything. He's just everything for me, okay? Carden and Greenbrier. It was to be expected that this man was going to be part of this. He's just Carden is Carden. And there is no other words to really describe him other than he is Carden, and he will do whatever the fuck he wants. And you can't really say anything to him because he's not going to accept anything other than, yes, sir. And I do love the vibes. Iconic vibes. Iconic. Luke from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. The only thing that needs to be said is Christian Grey wishes he could be this man. Swear it. Swear! I swear to you, this man is the perfect amount of possessive and loving that I just kind of want in life. Just, there's nothing else for me to really say about it. I just. Okay! And then, newest favorite character. Let's just run in circles. I think one of my newest favorite characters will have to be Henry from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. See, here's the thing about Henry. Henry is too much like me for me to think of him as a fictional crush. However, I would want to be this man's best friend. I would absolutely relish in being his best of friends ever. Honestly, this man, I love him so much. So much. Do adore him. Do adore Henry. He's the cutest little bean ever. And I would love to be his friend. Honestly, that's why he's one of my new favorite characters. If I'm really going to think about it, Matthias would also be one of my favorite characters, just because he's just the bean who doesn't know what's going on, but he's going along with it because he doesn't really have any other choice. I found him so hilarious, reacting to like Kaz and his crew's machinations, and he's just like, fuck, here we go, I suppose. It's just so funny. 10. A book that made you cry. We're going with Addie LaRue again. And also Crooked Kingdom, because, well, Crooked Kingdom, obviously. However, Addie made me cry for a completely separate reason, in the fact that I just felt so both called out and seen within this book that it just didn't really make much sense to me. Like, this book as a whole tackles some very human topics that you never really see yourself thinking about. However, once you start thinking about it, it's just more of like you kind of can't stop really thinking about it, because now it's on your mind. And now that you're actively thinking about it, you kind of have to tackle all of those feelings that you wouldn't normally tackle unless they were brought forth by the light. Does that make any sense? Probably not. However, this book made me cry for that reason. I felt very called out and very seen at the same time, in the same breath, and I didn't know how I felt about it, so I cried. A book that made you happy. How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. There is no way for this book that is so sad to have made me happy. I think I was mainly happy just because we got it from Carden's perspective. And also, like, I got to see how BB Cinnamon Roll became the way he is. However, like, this book made me happy for the sole fact that Carden, despite everything he's been through, despite everything he's had to endure, despite everything he had to become, he ended up happy. And I think that's just what made me so happy with this book. It's just so, love him. I love Carden. So next question would be the most beautiful book that you've obtained this year. Again, I have several answers for this. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad, the fact that I've spent so much money on books, all for pretty editions, because the OG editions, I hate it. Hate it. And I'm still doing it. So, first off, we're just going to go with the newest ones, which is my Green Bone Saga editions from Illumicrate. There is nothing to say about these books other than they are fucking stunning. And if you disagree with me, we're going to have problems. I will throw hands with you. Because you cannot tell me that this is not superior to this. You cannot. I will not accept. I will not take any criticism on like how beautiful these editions are versus the OGs. Will not have any criticism. Will not. No, I refuse. I absolutely fucking refuse. Another obvious answer. My two editions of We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars by House of Faisal, again done by Illumicrate. Because what this compared to this, these compared to those, excuse me, and then we're not even gonna talk about the could could not hold a fucking candle. Could not. Just, no, I will not hear any criticism on like how beautiful those editions are versus the OGs. Could not. I will not. No. For the final question, what books do you really need to read this year? Everything. Just fucking everything, to be honest. However, there is one book that I'm very excited to get to, and that is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This could also be one of my prettiest editions I've ever picked up so far, because quite literally, look at the naked hardback. Look at her. She's gorgeous. However, this book just sounds really interesting on the fact that I just never really heard of this concept. And also it's just the vibes that this one is giving me, the spoopy, like witchy vibes that this is giving me. Just really, I think this would be a really good Halloween read. Like, I'm really excited for this one, to be honest. But if we're going to go with the obvious answer, fucking everything. All of my books at one time, if I could do that. But anyways, that's gonna be the end of this book tag video. This was actually a lot of fun talking about all of the books, responding to these prompts, responding to these questions, talking about all of the books that I had in response to these questions. Like, this was a lot more fun, and I think I should do more of these, because I got to vent, I got to rant, I got to yell. It was great. So I think what's probably going to happen is I'm probably going to try and do this every year. Once mid-year rolls around every year, all of that. But this is a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. That brings this video to an end. If you enjoyed this video, please hit a big thumbs up. I post once every week, so please hit the subscribe button so you get notified every time I post a new video. And leave me comments down below about what books you think I should do, what books you think I should read, what videos that you think I should make, any books that you think I should be moving up my TBR. I always get really excited when I see comments from you guys. It makes me feel so appreciated and happy. But anyways, guys, that brings this video to an end. I love you, my little Lumas. Bye!